Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. Today I wanted to talk about my first thoughts on the tank rework, which just came to live last week, and give my impressions on the 3 champions that were reworked in the patch. Starting, of course, with Sejuani, the biggest one, and definitely the strongest of the 3, as she was hotfix nerfed, actually, barely 2 days after the patch. I think definitely Sejuani was dealing a lot of damage, and funnily enough, as it turns out, getting a free 100 armor and magic resistance that's then boosted by a percentage is a lot of armor and magic resistance on top of slow immunity. So Sejuani just did not take damage in the first 3 seconds of a fight, which is pretty crazy, especially because she dealt a lot of damage too with the new Icebreaker passive and the stun, the targeted stun on her E, I should say. So she's definitely very, very strong. However, how did the rework do at addressing her problems? I think, honestly, we swapped one problem for another. Before, Sejuani was defined entirely by her ultimate. If her ultimate was available, Sejuani was a real champion. If it wasn't, she didn't really do anything. Now, following the rework, Sejuani is a lot more dependent on her E. I will say that people are slightly overvaluing the E. I think very definitely it's super good, but I wouldn't say it's incredibly overpowered. I think that definitely having a free targeted stun that also gives you a lot of damage is pretty significant, but I don't think it's as strong as her old ultimate was. I think it's definitely still the core of her kit, though. Her new ultimate, and maybe this is just because I played Sejuani a decent amount and I'm used to how strong her old ultimate was, but her new ultimate doesn't seem that good to me. Having a ranged stun isn't that great, especially because you have to land the skill shot. It does feel fairly forgiving to land. The Ice Storm doesn't really seem to do much either, but I'll keep playing with it and see if I like it any better. But definitely her E is the best part of her kit. Especially given that melee champions can stack it. You really do want to field Sejuani with multiple melee champions on the same team. I do feel like her effectiveness falls off fairly drastically if she's not able to stack up her W, because usually in a fight she'll be able to get it on at least one person, probably not more than that, but I could definitely see if you had a composition with like Sejuani in the jungle, and then a melee tank top lane, and then maybe even a melee support or a melee mid laner, you're able to get stacks on multiple people in a fight, which quickly allows Sejuani to stun because there's almost no cooldown on the E, which is really, really strong. So I do feel like you want to be playing Sejuani in compositions with multiple melee tanks, because otherwise Sejuani can't really get stacks on people. The new W also, I think, is fairly decent. I like it a lot better than the old W. It feels beefy. It feels pretty decent. I do enjoy the ability, so I think that was a good swap out. And as a whole, I do feel like the Sejuani rework was a good place for her to go. Obviously, Frost Armor is really strong at the moment. That I believe that will be getting nerfed in a future patch, but I like where they went with the Sejuani rework, and I hope to see more in the future and see how it keeps playing out as time goes on. Next up is Maokai, who I am playing in this game. And I have not had a chance to play him in the top lane yet, but Jungle Maokai actually feels really, really good. With the sapling bonus, where you throw it in the brush, it does massive bonus damage. Maokai can actually level 1 Raptors really, really easily for a Raptor start. He clears fairly fast because of it. The healing on his passive is really good, so Maokai can sustain himself pretty easily. In fact, I think in this game, I don't even need my 3rd potion. I'm able to do like 4 camps, I want to say, plus red buff, and still have that potion on hand. So his sustain in the jungle is really, really good, and his clear is really decent as well. Now, when it comes to his ultimate, because I know a lot of people are not a fan of his ultimate, and it took me a while to figure it out, but Maokai's ultimate is not really used for initiation in the same way as, say, Malphite does. Malphite kind of presses R and a fight starts. Maokai can't really do that. The best way to use Maokai ultimate is as a giant zoning tool. Basically saying, when you walk into a gank, you ult behind the enemy laner, and then you start walking at them. And then they have the big question, well, I either stay and let Maokai W me, or I walk into the vines to get farther away, but then I get rooted and take damage, and that's kind of how you want to use his ultimate, or you use it as a follow-up to another initiation. If you can flash W onto somebody and then immediately ultimate, and what it does is it locks down that target, and then the wall of roots prevents the enemy team from coming to rescue their ally, because they'll just get rooted if they try to walk at him. So I can see Maokai's ultimate being used for that reason, to buy yourself a little bit more time with a single target. So, having played with it a little bit, I do actually like Nature's Grasp. I think it's a pretty good ultimate, and it feels a lot better to use than his old ultimate. That being said, Maokai is definitely a lot more mortal than he was before. He can die, especially if he's by himself. And I don't know if this is a change they specifically made in the rework, but the sapling leash range seems like it's a lot shorter than it was before, especially if the sapling is in a bush. It barely seems to lock on to enemies. It takes it a while to finally say, oh, there's a person here, I should go after them. So using the brush saplings in a fight, or even in the top lane, I can see, would be fairly difficult to do. All that being said, though, I do like where they took the Maokai rework. I think he's a much more fun champion to play, and honestly, I feel like he does have possible viability in the jungle. His clear is just really, really strong. I don't know necessarily if he's great against an invasion, but I do feel like because he clears so quickly and so healthily, that he can very easily be played as a jungler. Not sure about his top lane matchup. I will try to play that and let you guys know in a future video. Finally, we have Zac. Of the three, Zac is definitely the weakest, and it's a few of the nerfs they did to his kit. I know his E knocks up for less time and deals less damage, and I think that was definitely a bit excessive of a nerf. All this being said, I think the biggest problem for Zac is that his ultimate just doesn't feel very good anymore. Beforehand, his ultimate, it had a purpose. He jumped in with his elastic slingshot, he knocked people up, and then he goes bouncing around, he's knocking people around, he's displacing. It's a big disruption in a fight. Whereas his new ultimate doesn't seem like it has that many applications. Now, obviously, I have played him a couple of times, and I do like his ultimate. There have been a few times where you manage to get two squishies together and pull them back into your team, or pull aggressive team members away from your team, but it just doesn't have the same, it doesn't synergize with his kit quite as well. You can slingshot in and press R, but enemies will just walk out of range of your ultimate before you actually reach the point where it does anything. Because if you just let it go, it's a knockback, sure, but it doesn't really do, it's not that significant of an ultimate by itself when used in that regard. So you kind of have to get a pickup in order for Let's Bounce to be worth it. And because it's so easy to avoid the grab, it doesn't feel worth it to me. It doesn't feel very strong, and it just doesn't play well with Maokai's kit, or Zac's kit, sorry. So I'm kind of disappointed that that was changed. And honestly, if there was to be one part of the rework reverted, that is the one part I would like. His new Q, I actually really enjoy. Beforehand, after Zac slingshot in and started bouncing around, he didn't really do much except spam his AoE damaging abilities, which were his Q and his W. So I do like having the Q have a multi-hit. I like that it has the slow on it. I think that's pretty significant. And the slam together, too, is really, really strong. And I do feel like the reason I like it so much is because it gives Zac a little bit more to think about in a fight. You're constantly looking for, who should I grab? Who should I grab next? Who should I be slamming together? Should I just go for the double slow? And honestly, the fact that his Q has some thought process behind it makes me appreciate Zac's W. I know I've talked before, I'm really disappointed that his W didn't change at all because it's just generic AoE damage. But the reason I like it is because Zac has so much thinking to do now in his kit with his, where do I slingshot? Where do I use my Q? That having the W as sort of a safe press W for damage option is pretty good. And I think he needed to keep it as well because that's what gives him sustain in the jungle. Consistent sustain in the jungle, I should say. So removing it would definitely feel pretty bad on Zac. The new Q kind of takes some of the more complications, and the W can stay the same, and honestly, I'm fine with that. I do think that Zac does need some buffs. I would like to see the ultimate reverted. I don't think it's going to happen, but I hope Riot at least give it some kind of quality of life change so that it just becomes a little bit better to use. Even when I get some good scoops, I don't really even necessarily feel that good because it's hard for me to tell, was that a good scoop, was that a bad scoop? It's sort of a coin toss, so would like to see some more buffs happen for Zac in the future. Anyways, let me know what you guys think of all of these tanks down in the comment section below. I know that they've fallen off quite a bit in popularity, but if you guys have had an opportunity to play the new Sejuani, Maokai, or Zac, go ahead and let me know what your guys' thoughts are and whether or not you agree with me when I say Sejuani could probably use some nerfs and Zac could probably use some buffs. Anyways, that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you all so very much for watching. I do appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like. If you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. And this will actually be one of 2 videos uploaded today. I did miss on Friday, so I will be releasing a second video following this as sort of a catch-up. Anyways, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I will talk to you all later.